Hello, everyone. Hello, North Dakota exporters. Welcome to our webinar today, North Dakota Online Global Program and Grants, online business development tools to help you grow your export sales, brand, and business online internationally. Thank you all so much for coming. I know everyone's very busy and there's a lot of webinars to choose from, so we really appreciate you guys joining today and trying to learn more about these programs and how to help you grow in your export markets. So as everybody's logging on, just a quick introduction of the people who are going to be speaking today. My name is Amanda Nordick. I'm one of the Senior Online Business Development Managers at IBT Online. Although I'm located a little far away from North Dakota in Miami, Florida, I'm really looking forward to learning more about you guys and helping you in your export journey. On my side of the team, I'm also joined by Susanna Hardy, our Chief Content Officer. She is one of the most knowledgeable people I know about anything related to content, social media, search engine marketing, regarding your localized websites for your international target markets. So she's got a lot of really insightful information for you today. And then on the North Dakota Trade Office side, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Lindsey, the Director of Operations, and also Amanda Nordick, Communications and Administrative Manager. So we have a lot of really knowledgeable people on today's webinar, and we're really looking forward to presenting all about the online global programs. So just a quick word about IBT Online before we jump into the overall agenda. So IBT Online, we've been in business since 2002, and we are a private company who specializes in helping exporters grow in their international target markets. And for us, it's through your online presence. So through website localization and e-commerce, and also through international online marketing. We've helped companies go into over 40 countries in over 24 languages. We have a team of people all over the world looking to help our exporters grow. So it's a well-trodden road. And we've actually been recognized by, and just as recently as last week, we were awarded the President's E Award. So one of the highest recognitions that any US company can receive in the export field. So we're really proud of it. We're really proud of the work that we do for exporters, and we're really looking forward to helping North Dakota companies. So for today's webinar, we've divided it up into 5 parts. So our aim is to provide you with information-packed, very pragmatic, and a helpful resource, including time at the end for questions. Also, along the webinar, we will be having a few polls that'll pop up on the screen. So please answer them as they come up. And also know that we will have a survey at the end. So if you could take just literally 30 seconds to a minute to answer that survey, we would be super appreciative, so then we can kind of tailor these presentations accordingly in the future. So today we'll start off with North Dakota and talking about the resources for North Dakota businesses. Then we'll go into why North Dakota exporters need online business development tools, and then we'll go into what those tools actually are. And then section 4 will be a helping hand talking about the North Dakota online global programs and some case studies around them. And then at the end, we'll have those last 15 minutes for, sorry about that, takeaways and Q&A. So with that, I'll hand over to the North Dakota Trade Office to start the presentation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Samantha, so much for the introduction. So for those of you who may not know me, as Samantha had mentioned, I am Lindsey Warner, the Director of Operations for the North Dakota Trade Office. I do know that many of you who are attending the webinar today are very familiar with our organization, but for those of you that are not, I'm just going to give a brief introduction of kind of who we are and what we do and how we're based. So if you have any questions, feel free to just chime in at the Q&A session at the end, and we'll do our best to answer those. So the North Dakota Trade Office is a member-based nonprofit organization that is ultimately dedicated to expanding exports outside of North Dakota's borders. So our main focus with that is on an international level, but we do still offer assistance for companies who do need domestic assistance with trade as well. Our organization is built on 4 main pillars. Advocacy, which is on a state, federal, and international level. We advocate for North Dakota businesses on various trade-related issues, whether it be free trade agreements or transportation issues. We just advocate to help further those items. We also thrive on education, so educating North Dakota's exporters on anything from financing their exports to free trade agreements to cultural etiquette. We also collaborate with a number of state and federal agencies and associations to help identify opportunities to keep moving North Dakota exports forward. And then ultimately our expertise. We have a staff of professionals that are dedicated to trade expansion, and many of our staff members have multiple years of experience within the international business realm. So North Dakota Trade Office offers a number of services to our members and North Dakota exporters. So one of the first services is market opportunity identification. So ultimately, we help identify opportunities internationally for our North Dakota exporters and our members. We do this through various ways, but some of the biggest ways are through market research, as well as working with our network of international contacts to identify buyers in markets that our exporters are interested in going into. We also have like I had mentioned before with our expertise, we have a number of staff members who are dedicated to export account management for our North Dakota exporters. And they offer a wide array of assistance. And if there is something that a company is in need of that we may not have expertise in, we work very diligently to try and find the answers for those questions. And one way that we are able to do that is with our network of trade service providers. We work with a number of companies that vary across various associations. We also work with law firms, banks, logistics, and freight forwarding companies to help our exporters grow their business internationally. We also have a number of education opportunities, both live and on demand. Unfortunately, due to coronavirus, our live events just have not been happening, but we do still have an on-demand education portal available to our North Dakota Trade Office members to access education on international business and exporting. And ultimately, or finally, one of our other services is trade mission and reverse trade mission management. So over the years, we have excelled in our trade missions that we lead for the state of North Dakota. They can vary across the board, from a very specific industry-focused mission to a market to multi-industry larger missions that sometimes are led by state officials. So those are some of our key services that we offer to members. And we are still ultimately offering a vast majority of those services during this time of coronavirus, but we have had to pivot a little bit with how we offer those services, and we have started identifying other services that we can offer as well. So one of the things that we have done recently is a virtual trade mission. And in the late part of July, early part of August this year, we held a virtual trade mission that was specialty crop focused for a number of North Dakota companies that met with buyers in a one-on-one situation over Zoom. The buyers were located in South America, and we did find a lot of success in that mission for making introductions with potential buyers, or reinvigorating a relationship that a company may have already had with a buyer, and just catching up with them in that instance. One of the biggest takeaways we have from the virtual mission is that these are not necessarily replacements for in-person trade missions, but more of a band-aid for where we're at right now with travel restrictions. We are working on a couple additional trade missions or virtual trade missions. One of them is focused on specifically on agricultural machinery. And then we are in the very early stages of planning a couple other potential missions that would be multi-industry focused on a specific market. So please watch our website for more information on those as we get a little bit further in the planning process. Another item that we're offering to our companies during coronavirus is virtual introductions. So Amanda will expand on this a little bit later when she talks about our STEP grant funding, but one of the things that a lot of companies have utilized in the past for STEP funding is foreign market sales trips. So we're offering a virtual version of that, which would be virtual introductions. Again, we'll work with our network of international contacts to put together introductions for any companies that are interested in doing business in a specific market. We are also working on expanding our virtual education. I did mention previously, we do have our online e-learning portal that our members can access for various topics of export education. And we are rolling out some virtual education in 2021 for as long as we are still having meeting restrictions and things like that. So please watch for some of those virtual training sessions that we will offer as well. Another thing that we have been working on is putting together a library of country profiles. These profiles give an overview of current exports from North Dakota to a specific market, kind of the state of trade in those markets, as well as potential opportunities for North Dakota companies and North Dakota exporters in those markets. Those will be available soon to our North Dakota Trade Office members on our website. So if you have more, or if you have questions on any of that, please don't hesitate to reach out. We've also done a number of internal improvements to the North Dakota Trade Office. One of the big ones being we have implemented a new CRM system so we can more properly track the services that we're offering to North Dakota companies and our members. We've also made some changes to our NDTO website. We know that a web presence is incredibly important in this day and age. As of right now, we do not have a website that is globalized or localized by any means, but that is something that we're looking into. One of our biggest holdups with that has been some funding, but we do know that it is important when you are doing business on an international level to have a globalized or localized website, which is why we are working with IBT to bring you guys this presentation today, and we're really excited about it. So since I mentioned funding, for those of you on the webinar today, we do have funding available for virtual programs through our grants like STEP. But now I'm going to hand it off to Amanda Nordick, who is our Communications and Administrative Manager and our overall grant expert, and she will give you an overview on the grants that we have available. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Excellent. Thanks, Lindsay. Yes, nice to have you all here today. I'm here to just kind of give you an overview of our STEP program with STEP ND, show off some highlights, as well as then pass it back over to IBT for some more information. So with the STEP funding we have through the Small Business Association, I work pretty directly with them, but we have a lot of different opportunities, especially with some of the increased cap amounts that SBA is offered with coronavirus and not being able to do foreign sales trips and things like that. So one of the projects that you'll learn more about today is website localization. So again, IBT is a great partner for that. They have a really great approach with all of these STEP programs. We want to keep in mind that the goal of this program is to get us out internationally. So as you're moving through these things, keep thinking of that international or global presence. We also have funding available for the design of marketing materials, again with that international reach. But if you have things in mind directly towards some new or expanding markets that you're looking at, we can certainly help fund those. as well as some translation of both digital or print media. We can work with translators, and you can get some of that funding covered. We are seeing a lot of virtual trade missions, as Lindsey mentioned. We're working on some of our own, so we certainly can assist with the funding of that. Other pieces that we've seen a little bit of an increase is some compliance testing to get into international markets. A lot of our agricultural companies have been looking at and working through some of those projects, as well as shipping samples to new markets. So highlighting the goods that you do have, sending them out to other markets to make a difference there. The RAISE program, RAISE Research, is also something that is a great thing to do while you're kind of not traveling out there, working with some customized market intelligence and getting some more information on how to expand. We are seeing an increase in a lot of these projects with STEP funding, just people not being able to travel. So we are more than happy to answer any questions or assist with specific projects or anything that comes to mind that we might be able to work with and find a way to get some more funding. The key here is getting into new markets and expanding globally. With the SBA, you do need to be a small or medium-sized business. If you have questions on how to get that information, we have all of this available on our website. You can also get a hold of me directly as well. So I'm going to have our helper move to the next slide here. I also did just want to mention and highlight that if you are traveling, some folks are indeed traveling. We still do have funding for both foreign sales trips and foreign trade shows. We do also have a little bit of funding for domestic trade shows with an international presence, that international presence being key. So if you are working on some of those projects for the future, feel free to give us a contact here at NDTO, and we're happy to help with some of those pieces. But for now, let's hand it back over to IBT and hear more about their website localization and what they can do for you, which is also very available for STEP funding. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amanda. Really appreciate it. So why do North Dakota exporters need online tools? And so let's start with this why. So business priorities today are looking after employees, managing costs and cash flow, maintaining supply chains and existing partnerships, and then lastly, generating sales, exports, and business. And that is what we're going to focus on today, especially via your online presence. So, and the reason why we're focusing on this is because the world is online. So as of October 2020, more than 4.6 billion people across the globe are on the internet, which is about 60% of the world's population. And when we analyze the number of people online and their behavior, I want to draw your attention to the average time spent online, which is an average of about 7 hours a day. So if there's one takeaway from the slide, it's that across the globe, your customers, your prospects, your leads, your future distributors, future employees, suppliers, everyone that your business interacts with are online, and they're spending most of their day online. And the numbers are absolutely growing. So over 300 million people, which is a few million under the population of the United States, came online just last year. And the increase in active social media users has also been impressive, with over 450 million people becoming an active social media user since October of 2019 last year. So with all of these new active social media users coming online, it's no surprise that one of the main things that people are doing are communicating with each other. Over 43% of internet users use social media marketing or use social media for work purposes, and people are spending about 2.5 hours per day on being active on social media platforms. And COVID-19 has definitely impacted this. For example, it's made LinkedIn even more relevant than it was before. And an article came out on the Financial Times saying that LinkedIn, that more people are visiting LinkedIn and more people are posting stuff on LinkedIn because people want to stay relevant and they want to stay top of mind. So when kind of like normal business resumes, people haven't forgotten about them. And the numbers absolutely back it up. So between the conversations between its members jumped 55% in March from the same time last year, and live broadcasts have gone into absolute overdrive, with demand more than tripling since February, and users are being much more chatty on these broadcasts, with the number of comments surging up 272%. And all of this is really good news for companies and for exporters. It means you know exactly where your clients and your prospects are and what they're doing. They're all online and they're all on social media. So you can absolutely use this in your strategy to outreach to them. And it's important to keep in mind that online, social media, all of these things are not just for typical B2C companies, but it's absolutely for everyone. And we wanted to include this slide because I understand that a lot of companies, a lot of exporters are in that B2B space. And a lot of B2B companies don't pay enough attention to their online presence because they can kind of suffer from what we call, perfectly engineered syndrome, where you think deep down that your product is just so wonderful and it's so niche that it'll sell itself. And unfortunately, now that companies aren't meeting face-to-face, and typical sales avenues like trade shows and trade missions just aren't as prevalent as they once were, you need an online presence that will speak to how wonderful your products and your services are and be keyword optimized so that people can actually find you. So also keeping in mind when doing B2B business, the people that you're speaking to on the other side of that business are people. And they're people who make purchases for their businesses in a similar way that they purchase products for themselves. They do their due diligence on their products, on your company, on your competitors, and it's supported by the numbers that you see here. So 94% of B2B purchases are researched before contacting a sales rep or a distributor. And over 70% of searches start with a generic search like CRM software instead of searching for a specific brand name. And I also want to add that B2B e-commerce is actually more than 3 times the size of B2C e-commerce. So it's really important at all costs to, no matter if you're B2B, B2C, or even B2G, to use the right online tools. And this is also including social media. So social media marketing is a one-to-one medium, which gives you and your company a chance to market in a very direct and a very human way to your potential customers. And social media is great. It's great for expanding your other marketing efforts. So gone are the days when your only way to build that same awareness was through billboards or magazine ads or TV ads. So with social media, you have the ability to bring your brand content directly to your customers, your partners, and your prospects because you already know where your audience is. Social media is also one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audience. Sprout Social reports that when consumers follow a brand on social media, 67% of consumers are more likely to spend more money with that brand, and 78% say that they would visit the brand's physical retail store. So social media is just so impactful in the way that a consumer interacts with businesses around the world. And it helps you attract buyers to your products and services and gives you the ability to directly have conversations with the individuals at the time and the place of their choosing. And as you can see by that chart, social media channels are used for research for B2B purchases as well, with YouTube and Facebook being numbers 1 and 2. So as a company, it's really important to have some sort of online presence on those platforms because people are using those to search for your products and services. So that's pretty key. So in conclusion, why do North Dakota exporters need localized websites? It's in really simple terms, the world is online. Everyone that your company is interacting with and wants to interact with in the future is online, and they're communicating with each other. So as we're preparing and we're kind of getting used to this sort of new normal, we want to make sure that we're focusing online more than ever. So it'll help you get found, be understood, and be easier to do business with, not only in the US, but also in your international target markets.
Samantha, thank you so much, and hello everybody. Great to be here today. So I'm Susanna. I apologize for the light. We have a hailstorm outside. So before I start, I'm going to actually launch a poll. So get your mouses ready, and please let us know. Are you already doing business internationally? Is this something that you're well aware of and all good on? Are you already doing business internationally via in-market partners and online? Are you doing it in-market partners only? In-market partners means distributors, reps, even an own subsidiary. I don't mind. Or are you still thinking about it, or are any of you already doing it only online? And it's really interesting. Thank you so much for your participation in this. I mean, almost all of you have voted. That's great. I can give you an answer. It's actually very interesting for us. The majority of you are already with in-market partners and some online. That's, well, no, it's just changed. In-market partners, definitely. And some of you are in-market partners and online as well. So you're very much oriented, I guess, towards distributors, sales reps, in-market partners, and some of you are doing online business too, which we're very pleased about. Thank you very much. There's a very small minority who are doing online only, but well done you. I'm going to close that poll. It's the first of a couple of polls we'll do. So I'm going to close that poll. And then I want to talk about what are online business development tools. What are they? You know, how do they work? What are they? I get my mouse to work. So what are online business development tools? You know, basically it's simple. There are two. It's either a website or online marketing. That's it. Websites can go from tiny little things that look like brochures to huge megadons, literally with e-commerce portals and all kinds of things and plugins. Online marketing can be very light, like just keywords and you know, organic and stuff like that, or it can be very heavy in terms of paid, whichever it is. That depends on your strategy, your budgets, resources, and so on. There's lots of strategies to go with that. But whichever it is, e-commerce enabled or a light brochure, online marketing, SEO only, or full paid ad, those are the only tools that you'll actually need. Now the types and how you engage them depends on your strategy and resources. But if you're looking at an international side, what we would say most of all is that you need to take an approach that has this term localization. That means that your North Dakota website is your core home website. It has its own SEO and social media orbiting around it to make sure that it's functioning well and engaging with your domestic audience base. It's not really relevant to a lot of your international base. You may, by serendipity, attract someone from your target audience in Brazil or China or Mexico or South Africa, but that's purely really by chance. You're basically invisible outside your domestic relevancy. So what you need is to have these so-called localized websites, so a website that is relevant for that local market that you're looking to target. And that has its own little orbiting of social media and SEO, search engine optimization around it too. So all of them feed back into your US website, so you maintain control and you maintain brand consistency. It's really important for brand consistency as well. And thank you for that question that just popped in. More questions, please. We will get to the questions at the end, but that's a great one, and I appreciate that one about brands. We'll get to that one at the end. I love it. So why is this? Why do we need these localization things? And I guess it's really fundamental to understand about the internet. Everything about the internet is customer-centric, searcher-centric. It means that if I'm sitting in Brazil, I'm looking at Google probably as my search engine. I'm looking at it in Brazilian Portuguese. You know, and Google knows this. Google knows where I'm sitting, and they say, what's relevant for this person sitting here? Well, this North Dakota, hosted in North Dakota website may not be relevant. So that's how you have to make sure that you put the customer, your prospective buyer, always at the center of all of your thoughts for anything online, any online strategy. It really is a reflection of the way that the search engines organize themselves. So Google, I've taken Google as an example, but there are many other search engines, Baidu for China, even YouTube. YouTube today is used like a search engine. You go onto YouTube, say, You know, how do I find my whatever it is? You're on YouTube or Facebook, same thing. So these are all search engines these days. But taking Google as an example, they all work the same. All of them are localized. In other words, all of them put the customer, a searcher, at the center of their searches. So Google.com is not the same as what you would have in Argentina or Mexico. Google in Mexico is Google.mx, and it's in Mexican Spanish. And if you're a Mexican company, you want to see things that are relevant in pesos, that are in metric, measurements that are relevant and hosted nearby, so Google knows that you're a website or targeting that market. So don't think of Google as like one massive, just amorphous thing. It's actually a whole bunch of Googles. Google has a presence in 192 different countries. Think of them as 192 different Googles. Google has like Google Belgium has Google French Belgium and Google Dutch Flemish Belgium. It's that refined. Let me give you a silly example. Now, both Samantha and I have dogs, and during webinars they bark. That's very embarrassing. And so Samantha, who sits in Florida, goes on to Google.com and says squeakless dog toys, and she gets Chewy.com, Amazon.com, Yahoo blog about obsessive dogs. I'm sitting in the UK at the moment. I go into google.co.uk, that's my Google, and I get marksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpaws.co.uk, amazon.co.uk, different localized Amazon response as well. Okay, silly example, but the same works for machine tools, for agricultural products, for oil and gas industry, for anything that you want. It all has to be localized. And localized comes in many different forms. I mean, one of the most visible that you can always look at is keywords. The keywords are the words that you type in when you're looking for something. Keywords, this is an example of keywords in Spain or in Mexico. And if you're in the automobile industry, you have to get that right. Otherwise, if you're using the word auto for Spain, 91% of the people typing in something for car will not find you because you're using the wrong word. It also means a big impact for your Google ad campaigns, since you might be spending money for nothing. So not a good idea. So make sure your keywords are right. And that's an example of localizing your keywords. We've done a lot of work on localizing and localizing websites and localizing online marketing. And it is a vast sort of field, if you like. But for a localized website, I gave an example there about keywords, but translation is one aspect out of at least 10 criteria that we use to rank a localized website. Registered domain names are really important. Hosting optimally, the right content management system, design optimally, all of these things are really important to making sure that the search engines think you're relevant for that market. So if you want a website that is working for you in your target international markets, you need to make sure it's localized. It can be a small website, but it has to be a good one. Let me give you an example of what a localized website should be doing for you. And you can do this for your US website. Just look in your Google Analytics for it. So this is a website that is for a B2B company. I'm sorry, this is the analytics for a website for a B2B company that is targeting Australia. They're in the mining business, by the way. So they want a website that's really good at Australia, relevant for Australia. And you can see this is the case. I mean, nearly 90% of the people visiting that site are from Australia and New Zealand. The rest are vaguely relevant because they have an English language. So Google says, you might just be interested in this one. And therefore, I've shown them that website for the States, the UK, the Philippines, Canada, India. But 90% come from Australia and New Zealand. If you were to do the same on your North Dakota, I think you would find that there's a similar geographics on your North Dakota. You'll find that it's all around you, all around geographically you. So you're getting a lot of sort of around sort of maybe Alberta and things like that, and Saskatchewan, but that's about it in terms of. One of the key points I always note about all localization as well is your buyer persona. Just as your website has to be localized for your search engine, it has to be localized for your buyer persona. So what is a buyer persona? A buyer persona, as HubSpot defines it anyway, is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and data about your existing customers. So here's an example of Zipcar. Zipcar, we all know, their buyer persona is so important for where they are as a company and how they target it, that they actually have it in their mission statement. Their mission statement talks about educated, techno-savvy customers who worry about the environment and so on. So they're urban, educated, tech-savvy, environmentally conscious. Here's an example of their, is it Instagram? Yeah, their Instagram account. These people with their plants and their car and college kids are obviously urban, educated, tech-savvy, environmentally sensitive. And their tags that they're doing are even reflecting that. It's, hashtag plants, hashtag back to school, hashtag get outside. These are all very relevant for Zipcar's buyer persona. So the first thing also you need to do internationally is make sure you know your buyer persona internationally. And your buyer persona internationally may differ from your domestic buyer persona. And again, one of the first things on your journey about expanding your international tools is to make sure that you're targeting the right buyer persona in each market. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of resources. So a couple of questions to ask really is my international buyer persona different from my domestic buyer's persona? How does my international buyer persona find me? In what ways are their journeys to actually buying and engaging with me different? How do they build the trust needed? So we wanted to show you this example of how you can tweak and think about different international buyer personas, and that's so important for your localization. So in this case here, we have an image of L'Oreal. L'Oreal is a big company, but they are really seen as the leader and a shining light in terms of marketing and online marketing. So we look at them quite a bit. And it's a B2C, but it's an interesting company in that sense. This is an image of something they had at the beginning of COVID. I think it was in like March, April, when people were in lockdown, and they wanted to show the U.S. that they were really supporting stylists and salon partners during COVID-19 crisis and so on. So it's all about sort of COVID. We're supporting you and that. If you looked at the same time at their Australian website, the image you had was quite different. Same country. It's just that this one here, their actual concern at that time was about the climate. There was some horrendous wildfires in Australia at the beginning of this year, and people really were most concerned with the climate and climate change and things like that. And so, L'Oreal reflected that in their buyer persona. And the last example here shows you what L'Oreal was doing at the same time in Brazil, which was starting to feel the effects of COVID. And L'Oreal doesn't usually produce hand sanitizers, but here we're producing hand sanitizers for our Brazilian people, so work with it. So that's an example of making sure that you're engaging with your buyer persona and their concerns. What are your concerns? Be customer-centric. What are the concerns of your buyer? Another thing about localization is how markets react in different ways. Here's an example of a Facebook campaign we ran for a company. We did very similar campaign, same company, same product, similar campaign, obviously localized. One in Mexico, one in the UK. And we did the UK one first. We were really pleased because the UK, we had over 1,000 people engaging. And the engagement for the UK, we thought was top. We were really pleased with that engagement. And so on. And then we ran the one for Mexico, and it just blew us out of the water. It was over 20,000 engagements in Mexico. Well, this is terrific. Same program, same thing, different engagement in each market. And it's not about the brand awareness in that market, because it's very similar in both cases. It was about the level of engagement, how Mexico reacts to things versus how the UK reacts to things. There's a deeper level, however. That was about the engagement. Now let's look at how that same campaign over a year works with regards to lead generation and actual sales. In these two charts, you have Mexico on the top and then the UK. The blue and red is that engagement level, 20,000 in Mexico, for example, and 1,000 in the UK. The yellow and green represent more lead generation. It's where people actually click and say, hey, where can I find this? How can I buy this? Where do I buy? What's the distributor? Where's my nearest? That sort of thing. And so that's, great. That's lead generation. That's what we want too. That's sales. And you'll see that, in fact, perhaps you can't see, it's a bit small, but perhaps you'll see the yellow and the green in Mexico versus the UK is very similar. So the engagement levels of Mexico are very high. The lead generation, however, is similar to the UK. Now, if you're running campaigns, you need to know that you need that level of engagement in Mexico to get that level of sales. And in the UK, you just need that level of engagement to get that level of sales. So again, this is an effect of different localization and how you can use localization throughout your strategies for international markets. And with that, I think I'm going to turn back to Samantha, and we're going to talk about helping hand for all of you North Dakota exporters and companies.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Susanna. So now that you've learned why website localization and how it works, now I can talk about the actual programs to help you guys out. So we build and manage international websites and international online marketing, but all of these websites can come in different shapes and sizes. And there are a lot of different motivations for companies to get international websites. And here we have listed a few of the most common objectives when getting localized online marketing and websites as well. So we can help you reach new markets. We can help you be found and understood in your target markets. We can help in your B2B distributor recruitment. We can help support your in-market distributors or partners or sales reps. We can help you own and control your online presence. And all of this is done through the North Dakota Online Global programs. So the first two programs that we have available are programs A and B. So option A is a 2-market expansion with a limited scope. So 12 web pages and 2,000 words each website. So by the end of option A, you'll have 2 websites completely localized for your top 2 target markets. So in this example, we have one in English for India, and then another one in Spanish for Mexico. And these websites will be based off of your US site, but we will go through a whole localization process, including getting proper domain names, local hosting, SEO keyword research, industry-specific translators, regulatory compliance, and so much more that we've covered throughout this webinar. So by having these websites, they'll help you be found, be understood, and be easier to do business with in your top target markets. And in terms of budget, option A costs $12,000, but I know North Dakota has those STEP grants available to qualify North Dakota companies. So if you're interested in option A, please get in touch. And then we have option B, which is just anything above and beyond the scope of work of option A. So maybe your company is looking for a website redesign, or maybe the scope of work of 2 websites, 12 web pages, 2,000 words just doesn't fit what you're looking to do, and you want one website but more pages and more words, then that would be covered under option B. But we would go through the same very thorough process-driven localization process for our option B participants as well. So there are North Dakota STEP grants available for option B because it is an international website, just like option A. Susanna, do we have time for, oh, actually no, first I want to do a case study before we get into the poll. Here we have Avionics Support Group, which is a company that participated in the Online Global program that we have in Florida 3 times. So they actually have 7 websites because they did it another time. And so they got localized websites for starting with China and Mexico, then they went into Japan and Brazil, UAE and Russia, and then France. And what they wanted to do, they were a very typical B2B business where they went to trade shows, they went to trade conferences, and that's how they typically did business. So we wanted to optimize those trade shows and help generate leads. And one of the problems that they came across pretty frequently in their export markets was that their products were just too technical. So technical to the point where their own sales reps in those markets were having trouble understanding and selling them just using their US website. So starting with China and Mexico, they actually got a $500,000 airline deal just because they had that localized Chinese website for their China sales reps. So that is one example of how a localized website can help a B2B business. And we also have a wonderful case study if you go on our website if you want to check that out. Another example of website localization is Bullman Products. So for Bullman Products, we created localized websites for them in the UK, Germany, China, Spain, Australia, Turkey, Singapore, and Korea. So that's a pretty impressive list. And their problem was that they had a lot of different kinds of product lines and a lot of buyer personas that they wanted to sell to in their markets. And what their struggle was that the end consumer didn't know who Bullman Products was. The end consumer would go to the distributor would sell Bullman products, and the customer never knew who Bullman Products was, and they had a problem with that. So what they did is that we created these localized websites for them as a sales and marketing tool to help support their distributors. And so customers who were looking for their products would find Bullman Products first, and then based on their site, they could find the appropriate distributor to purchase the product from them. So by having localized websites, they completely shifted their business model, and now they're much more in touch with who their buyer personas are and who their customers are, which was one of their goals. And then along with that, we also do their localized marketing campaigns in a few of those markets to help generate those leads and also identify new distributors in other markets. And because of all this, their international sales grew at 22% per year. So we're really proud of that. We feel like we're part of Bullman's team, so we love that they've been successful. And if you want to listen to that case study, that's also on our website.
Right, Samantha, can I launch your poll now?
Yeah, now you can.
Thank you. Right. We just wanted to ask if any North Dakota companies, if any of you would like to learn more about localization and the localized websites and the STEP grants available, the North Dakota Online Global Programs. If you'd like us to send you some more information, how does it work? What do you have to do? How long does it take? All of that stuff. We're happy to reach out to you and let you know. And thank you very much for enthusiastically responding to that. We appreciate that. Excuse me, my voice is going. I'm going to close this poll now. How do I close the poll? I'm going to close the poll, hand back to Samantha, talk about some of the other options available. Hold on.
Excellent. Thank you, Susanna. So now I'm going to dive into option C and E. So option C is international online marketing. So if you need help in this area, so for example, you already have your localized website, and now you want to drive leads, drive customers, drive distributors, suppliers to that website. We always recommend that you have some sort of communication strategy surrounding it, whether you do that in-house or you ask somebody else to do it, like IBT Online. Please don't just build a website and let it be. Do some international marketing with it as well. So for option C, we aim to be kind of like your in-house, out-house marketing partner, and we would do monthly ongoing search engine marketing, social media marketing, and reporting and analytics in your main target markets. And then we have option E. So option E is our e-commerce option. So we would build an e-commerce platform specific for your target market. So in this example, we built an e-commerce market for the Brazilian market. And we would do everything that you need to make it look like that is a Brazilian company. So we would do the payment gateways. We would make sure that the currencies are correct. We want to make sure that they have a really pleasant local user experience on your e-commerce platform. And the scope of work, the budget definitely depends on the scope of work. So we have small, medium, large, and extra large programs. And you can find all of the information about budget, statement of work, all of that on our North Dakota Online Global Program page. But before we dive into the poll again, I do have two examples that I want to share. So first is AMSOIL. So AMSOIL is a company that we do a lot of social media marketing, search engine marketing for. They have websites for Australia, France, India, Latin America, and the UK, and they plan to expand a little bit further. And what we did is we created localized marketing campaigns through both social media marketing and very targeted search engine marketing to help them reach their end consumer. So their goal was to increase their sales and their brand recognition. They sell synthetic oil, and they wanted people to go to their local car shop and say, you know, not just I want oil or whatever you got, I want AMSOIL. So that is one of our main priorities when thinking about our social media strategy and our search engine marketing strategy. And not only that, but we also wanted to help them recruit new distributors and also support their distributors in those markets. So different markets have different goals and different strategies, and that is all covered under our option C for international online marketing.
Samantha, can I launch a poll now, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So I just want to launch a poll about online marketing. If that's something of interest to you, please let us know, and we can send you again, more information on that, or get in touch directly, whichever you'd like. And again, that has to do either with that can be anything from search engine optimization, SEO, to paid, to social media marketing, paid advertisement, and so on. And again, there are STEP grants available in North Dakota for all of this, so that's worth noting as well. And again, I'd say thank you very, very much for your responses, and that's a very, very enthusiastic response, which we appreciate. Okay, I'm going to close that poll and turn back to Samantha. You have another example about maybe e-commerce.
Yep, that's right. So this last example is Vapor Pins, and we created 3 international e-commerce websites for Brazil, Spanish-speaking Latin America, and Australia/New Zealand. And we started with Brazil because they started to create, they had another provider that said that they could do the Brazilian e-commerce site, but turns out they were a little in over their heads, and it wasn't completely localized and optimized for the Brazilian market. So it wasn't resulting in the type of sales that VaporPin was expecting. So they reached out to us, and we were happy to create a localized e-commerce platform by using option E for the Brazilian market to start off with. So there, we also do localized marketing campaigns for them to help drive that traffic to these new websites. And for them, their main goals was to increase sales, increase their brand recognition within those markets, and just to grow in those target markets and beyond. So they participated in option E, and now they have these beautiful e-commerce websites to help them grow in those markets.
Fantastic. And guess what? I'm going to launch on the poll, and it's my last poll. Because we're going to turn now to questions. But if you would like to learn, would you like to learn more about international e-commerce, B2B, B2C, whichever, B2G? If you do, let us know. And again, there are some STEP grants available for this for North Dakota companies and exporters to give you a helping hand. Which Lindsey and Amanda can highlight as well for you. And again, I'd like to say thank you very, very much for that response. We're really pleased to see North Dakota companies engaging and getting online business development tools. It's fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to close that poll. And I think we're going to sort of round up, and we've got a couple of questions in. Before we go actually onto the questions, I was just going to give a sort of real quick summary. If you take anything away from some of this webinar, perhaps what we want to impress upon you is that the online world is a good thing. For North Dakota companies, it's a good thing. You know where your clients are. you know where your prospects are, and you know how to reach them and how to engage with them. They're online. They're all online, and they're online for at least 7 hours a day. And in order to reach them in the way that they want to be reached, that they have the trust and build the trust that you need for that buyer's journey, it needs to be localized. You need to have localized websites, localized online marketing, localized e-commerce. Otherwise, you don't build the trust. Otherwise, you won't be found. Otherwise, you won't be understood. So to be found, be understood, do business, you need localized websites, online marketing. And that is an amazing set of tools that you can give your business and reflect that with your in-market partners for this new online normal, as it's being called. And your state is doing a lot to help. It's built something called the North Dakota Online Global Programs. This is a really big helping hand for you. And we would, love it if you would take advantage of this. It allows you to build brand awareness internationally over time. And that's the best thing that a company can do. Generate leads, reach new markets, build brand awareness. Do that with online tools. So there you go. I'm going to go straight into questions now. And there's I'm going to answer a couple of questions that have come in. Yes, you are getting a recording of this slide deck. So you get a recording of this webinar. And we will send that to you by the end of this week. So you will have that recording. And the other questions that are coming up quite a lot is a lot about step funds, how to apply, eligibility, more details on eligibility. So Amanda and Lindsey, I'm going to ask the first couple of questions to you, if that's all right. Sort of, how do I process? Do I call IBT or NDTO? Perhaps Amanda, you could answer that.
Sure. So one of the first steps that we want to do to ensure that you're okay and all set to be able to have STEP fund those programs is you can reach out to the IBT team or you can connect directly with the NDTO team. But we need an application from the company to ensure that you're eligible for STEP before we can okay and say that you're good to go for funding. So the process with a STEP application would be we require 2 pieces. So one is a company application. And that includes basically the company details, what you are, what you stand for, and ensuring that you're applicable within the SBA's guidelines of a small to medium-sized business. The second piece that we need is an activity application. With the STEP grants, you are allowed up to 5 activities per grant year. So that means that you could have a translation project as well as a website localization project. So to do that, you would go online to ndto.com, and there is a link to our grants page there, or you can contact me directly. We've been working very closely with both Samantha and Susanna, so we're all in conversation with each other too. So if you get one of us, you'll get us all to make sure that you're moving forward with what needs to be checked off on the boxes.
Thanks, Amanda. And I have a couple more questions to you. Sure. Are there a set number of companies that can apply, or is it a first come, first serve basis?
Currently, we are running under a first come, first serve basis. With the lack of travel, we do have a good amount of funding. So I would get those in sooner than later, but we're ready for you. So yes, go ahead and send
okay, good. That leads to another question, which is, can I do this in December? I need a project by January. So I think it's
yes. So we do this rolling set of applications. So we process applications weekly. If you're anticipating a project for January, go ahead and send everything in now. It's always good to just feel that you've already got approval to move ahead. So feel free to send those in when you've got that information. We do need the company application and the activity application before you start working on those projects, so they can't be retroactive.
Okay, great. Samantha, perhaps one for you. What role do my in-market distributors play?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we want to work with your in-house or your in-market distributors. We don't want to step on anybody's toes or anything like that. So we can actually include them in the process of the translation work, have them look over it, make sure that they like the translations, because in the end, we want them to use your localized website as a sales and marketing tool. We want to help them. We want this tool to help them sell in that market. So if anything, it's just going to help them in the long run.
Thanks, Samantha. I actually grouped a couple of questions into that one, but another one's just also come in with that. My in-market distributor, my international distributor owns my domain names. Does that stop me from a localized website?
No, I mean, we always suggest that you purchase your own domain names, and you can see if your distributor will sell it back to you. But that absolutely does not stop you from getting localized websites. There's other ways around it. You can get a different domain name. You can do subdomain or a subfolder, and our technical team would absolutely be able to help you in those decisions.
One last question as well. Can I change my localized website into an e-commerce website over time?
Yes, so especially if that's something that's kind of on your mind when you choose option A, you can let our technical team know so they can set it up in a certain way that will be easier to make it e-commerce enabled down the line.
Yeah. I'm conscious of time. We have a few more questions there, but I think they're quite technical and quite specific to the company, so we'll react to you individually. This one about CRMs and things, we'll react to you. We'll send you an email specifically. So I'm conscious of time. I promised everyone they'll be back at their desk or their living room or their kitchen or their garage or their hallway within an hour. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank Lindsey, thank Amanda, thanks Samantha for joining me today as well. I thank all of the North Dakota Trade Office for your participation and support for this and for producing these online global programs for North Dakota companies. Most of all, thank you, North Dakota companies, for participating, joining us. There's a really brief survey coming up at the close of this. There's a bunch of new questions going in, but we will respond to you individually. Thank you all so much, and see you online and maybe offline, in person. It would be lovely. Take care. Keep traveling. Keep well. Stay well, and keep doing business. Thank you all very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.